seconds left, and all they need is a field goal. They're trying to knock off number 2. On the way, and good. And it is stunned disbelief inside Death Valley. The Pitt Panthers have rocked Clemson's world and shaken up all of college football.
Keith Duncan for a walk-off winner.
Right through, and the Hawkeyes have stunned the Wolverines. Michigan unbeaten no more.
Loops it in the back of the end zone. What a catch! Imator Bebe! Touchdown USC! Oh, and it's picked off! And that might send the folks home here in Seattle.
You don't have your fastball going each week, you're going to get knocked off.
So good. A crazy Saturday filled with upsets led to a little reshuffling of the college football playoff rankings. So here's the latest, folks. Ohio State benefited the most with a win over Maryland. The Buckeyes moved up from 5th to 2nd. Michigan, losers on the road against Iowa, fared the best of the fallen as they remained at number 3. Clemson, which lost at home to unranked Pitt, dropped from number 2 to number 4, while Washington's home loss to USC cost the Huskies 2 spots, going from 4th to 6th, putting them outside of a playoff bowl. And then Louisville has to deal with a 1-spot move, going from 6 to number 5 after pulling out a win over Wake Forest. Stephen A., any issues with those rankings?
Not at all. Alabama should be number 1, Roll Tide. They're the best team in the nation. They have the best coach in the nation. They will steamroll, as I predicted it earlier this year when Max Kellerman was willing to take the field and I was willing to take Alabama.
Come on, Lamar Jackson.
I have stayed right there, and I'm not budging. Alabama will roll. Roll Tide. Having said all of that, they've destroyed the SEC. Nobody in the SEC is even relevant in our eyes because of what Alabama continues to do to everybody. Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, just to mention a few. Leonard Fournette gets held to 35 yards rushing. I mean, my God, Alabama, Roll Tide. So we look at that, and the SEC has been irrelevant, which is a story that we should visit another day because Nick Saban has ruined the SEC conference, which was the best conference for years. Yeah. Now it's the Big Ten. And because it's the Big Ten, that's why I don't have a problem with Ohio State and Michigan being up in there. I know Penn State beat Ohio State, and everybody caught up in the sauce talking about Penn State. You know, if they win the Big Ten and Ohio State, even if Ohio State gets in, they should be in. Oh, stop it. They're not on Ohio State's level. They lucked up 1 week. Damn it, that's that. Having said all of that, Clemson being that 4th team, I know that they beat Louisville. I know my man Max Kellerman wants to see Lamar Jackson. But damn it, they didn't get it done. And Louisville right now, as we look at them in terms of strength of schedule from this point forward, they're like 43rd. They had their opportunities. They didn't look impressive in a variety of wins after a loss to Clemson. I've got no problems with the top 4 whatsoever. Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, and Clemson.
As I so often do, Stephen A. Smith, I'm going to use your own logic against you. Sure. So looking forward is affecting how you're ranking these teams now. How is Louisville going to overcome based on their strength of schedule and make it into the top 4?
No, I just threw it out there because I know you like to use your stats, so I want to beat you to it.
Okay, well.
Go ahead. But it doesn't matter.
Looking forward, Ohio State, Michigan playing at the end of the season. Someone going to lose that game. They can't be in the top 4, right? You can't be in the top 4 with 2 losses.
Depends. Well,
no, the loser of that game ain't going to the playoff.
Okay.
Okay, so...
What if Louisville loses it?
So, well, let's start here. So we have Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3, Clemson 4. My problem is Ohio State or Michigan, one or the other ain't going to be there. That opens up a spot. And I've argued for Washington last week.
Did you?
Yeah, Louisville.
I don't recall you arguing. I thought that was me. No. I thought that was me talking about Washington.
I said Pac-12, and you were dismissing them because of a loss to USC. Now, Louisville versus Clemson. This is a paradox. To rank Clemson over Louisville is a paradox. A paradox is like if you said, no one at this desk is capable of telling the truth. If that statement were true, then it couldn't be true because you'd be telling the truth. That's a paradox. That's right. Think about it. Now, how can Clemson be ranked ahead of Louisville? They just lost to Pitt. If you believe Clemson is better than Louisville, then you also must believe that a close Louisville loss that could have gone either way on the road to Clemson is not as bad as a loss to Pitt at home, if you believe Clemson should be ranked over Louisville. So if you believe Clemson should be ranked over Louisville, you cannot have Clemson over Louisville. A paradox. So therefore, my top 4. Alabama, at least a standard deviation better than the rest of college football. Let's call it what it is at this moment and so far.
Go ahead.
Either, make up your mind, Ohio State or Michigan. Let's go with Ohio State for now. Louisville, and I think ultimately Washington.
I think I kind of could have helped our Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton in this regard when it came to the debates, Max Kellerman. The art of debate is first making sure that people understand what the hell you're saying in order for you to win it. You shouldn't have to look up the words, shouldn't have to look up the phrases, shouldn't have to have a thesaurus and a dictionary next to them to try to figure out what the hell you're saying, okay? I'm talking about right now, as the rankings stand today, the 4 teams who are in it, I have no issue. Now, of course, Ohio State or Michigan is going to lose. And when that happens, if Louisville wins and runs the table and Clemson wins and Alabama wins, we might have a decision made. Sure, we can talk about it then. But I'm sorry, Molly, wasn't your question about right now, the ratings as we speak today? Louisville lost to Clemson. Ohio State is still better. Michigan State is still perceived as being better.
Clemson lost to Pitt at home.
Excuse me. But Clemson beat Louisville. That's what I'm saying.
But by your own logic, that should make Louisville. If you like Clemson so much, that's a better loss than losing at home to Pitt.
What I'm saying to you is that Clemson beat Louisville. So Clemson should certainly be in ahead of Louisville. Come to me in a couple of weeks when Ohio State and Michigan play one another. Let's see how they look. Let's see how Louisville. What if Louisville goes out and looks like straight garbage, even in a win? But Michigan and Ohio State is a nail biter with some bogus call from an official or something like that.
Clemson should be ahead of Louisville, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it better? What's a better loss? If you lose to Clemson on the road or Pitt at home? What's a better loss?
If you lose to Clemson
on the road or Pitt at home?
There's a worse loss for Clemson to lose to Pitt at home. I understand that.
Good.
But what I'm saying,
they each have one loss, correct?
What I'm saying to you is this: I am not. In the case of Clemson and Louisville, I don't believe Penn State is on Ohio State's level. I just think they looked up that week. But in the case of Clemson and Louisville, I think they're relatively even, but Clemson beat them. I'm giving their victory over Louisville more of an edge. I can be arbitrary like that.
Kids.
Paradox.
Yeah, we got to look it up.
Someone who does two things. Word of the day. I have it right here for you.
I feel you. I appreciate that.
Use it in a sentence later.
Listen.
We're all expanding our vocabulary.
Nobody exemplifies the word paradox more than my man Spock Kellerman. Nobody.
Listen. I never had the opportunity for Ivy League education, so I appreciate it rubbing off. Coming up, Stephen A. You always say no one loves Tony Romo more than Jerry Jones. Well, Jerry, was he being a little insensitive yesterday when discussing Tony Romo's paycheck as a backup? Take a listen. We'll react after the break.
I've paid a lot of money for a backup quarterback, as you well know. And this, by the way, as it turns out, is going to be the record for having paid this for the backup quarterback. You've always had to have the use of another quarterback at some point during the season. You don't want that. And you're dealing with a very young, healthy, strong quarterback and Dak Prescott. But, that's the reason you have backup quarterbacks. I've paid a lot of money for a backup quarterback, as you well know. And this, by the way, as it turns out, is going to be the record for having paid this for the backup quarterback.
Paycheck jokes. I don't know. I was raised to never talk about somebody else's money, but what do you think? Insensitive?
Well, first of all, in the interest of fairness, because I want to be fair, Jerry Jones did make those comments before Tony Romo's, dare I say, emotional speech reading, scenario with the media and the public. So I want to be sensitive. I would say that I was a bit more sensitive than Jerry Jones. I mean, when you think about it, Jerry Jones is smiling, and he has suffered a lot. There is no doubt about that. And I think that we see a situation right now where where Jerry Jones is so happy. The Cowboys are winning. Not only is he making money because they're worth over $4 billion, not only is he making money, but finally, it's actually justified because it's not hype that has the Dallas Cowboys, really leading the news wires and the airwaves and all that stuff. It's their actual productivity on the field for only the second time in 20 years as far as I'm concerned. So I look at it from that perspective, and I understand how Jerry Jones is so happy. I'm just saying that I was a little taken aback because it is his adopted son we're talking about here, Tony Romo. I imagine that if Tony Romo showed his emotion to Oz, he clearly showed it to Jerry. And knowing that, I would expect Jerry to be a little bit sensitive, but Jerry Jones reminded us all of the business extraordinaire that he is, and that business takes precedence over personal feelings. Damn it, I'm paying you the paycheck. You're still gonna go to your house, your mansion, and somewhere in Texas, all right? You're still gonna wear the uniform for the rest of the year. You're gonna get paid, everything's good, but damn it, I'm moving on. That's what Jerry Jones is basically saying, and I understand.
Stephen A., Molly, Damian, I think Jerry Jones has handled this situation perfectly from the get-go. He made a calculation, which was, look, I'd love for the Cowboys to be like 8-1 by the time Tony Romo comes back. Probably not going to happen. Let me support Tony Romo because we're going to need him eventually. When he gets healthy, it's going to be his team again. But you know what? If we are like 8-1, that's a good problem to have. May I have the problem, please, that I have to sit there looking like a little bit of a hypocrite about, like coming back off my Tony Romo comments and now throwing my support off Dak. Like, may I please have those problems, oh football gods? And he got them. I mean, it was unlikely. I don't care how good you are. It's unlikely that any team is ever 8-1, after 9 games. But there they are. So he supported Romo the whole time. Then they even kind of delayed. Is Romo healthy? Is he? Oh, my Dak Prescott's hurt. His Dak Prescott keeps acting up. And eventually it's like, look, the guy is ready to play. He's practicing. He's throwing the ball well, everything. Is he gonna play or not? And when it was time to cross that bridge, Jerry Jones is like, well, I guess I got the problem I wanted. Nope, he ain't playing because that's not how it works in the NFL. If you're 8-1 and the kid's playing well, he will continue to play. I don't know how much better Jerry Jones could have played this whole thing.
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Didn't I tell you last week? I told you last week about how this Cowboys situation. You swore up and down on the camera last week. Jerry Jones can't help himself. He's going to put Tony Romo back in there. And look what's happening. Look what's happening. Jerry Jones got it made right now. Got Dak Prescott. Yeah. We can go back and check the tape because you were the main one talking about, oh, Jerry Jones can't help himself, and he's gonna throw Tony Romo back in the mix. And look what's happening now. But when we talk about this Cowboys situation, I had a similar situation in New England.
Okay.
When Tom Brady, when Drew Bledsoe got hurt,
yes,
against the Jets, Tom Brady comes in. Obviously, the whole situation played itself out. And guess what? Tom Brady got hurt in the AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And who came in to save the day? Drew Bledsoe. So that's why this whole situation is beautiful, because anyone who's watched the Dallas Cowboys over the years, especially the past couple of years when Tony Romo's been hurt, they've just been abominable at the quarterback position. They haven't been able to do what a backup quarterback is supposed to do, and that's hold down the fort until the starter gets back. So if you're Jerry Jones right now, you got your feet kicked up, you drinking lemonade, knowing that I got a rookie baller right now, a 4th-round draft pick, I believe, that's carried this team to 8-1, that's playing at an elite level, and my backup is an elite quarterback.
I'm glad
that can hold it down.
He addressed me, man.
They can hold it down.
Damian Woody, when I spoke last week, you're absolutely right. I said exactly what you said I said, but I didn't stop there. You see, this is the beauty of being a journalist as opposed to a football player. See, you know your football. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But I know how to record.
Okay.
The expertise of football players. Part of the job I had. And I also know how to record myself. I specifically said this season, not this week. My point is they got 7 games to go. Baltimore's next, Washington's after that. You got road games with Minnesota and the Giants. You got Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Philadelphia. Now, the last game is January 1st. That's the new year.
Okay.
That means I got till the new year until you can say the statements that you just stated. Because the fact of the matter is I never said to you, oh, that's next week. I said to you, trust you me, Jerry Jones can't help himself. You better believe you're going to see Tony Romo again this year. That is what I said. Okay. So you tried to sit up there very adroitly, I might add, elocuted yourself very, very nicely. You didn't try to sit up there and confuse me, force me to need a dictionary like Max does. You were very, very, very directed to the point. But in the end, you basically misquoted me because I got until the new year. Am I right, Molly Wood?
You do.
I got until the new year.
He thinks he can still get in.
It's January. It's November, bro.
But guess what? Guess what? I'm gonna be here every week.
I understand that. But don't act like I said it now.
So every week I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna look you right in the eye, and I'm gonna count it down.
And I'm gonna count it down for both of y'all because you don't listen. You're hard-headed too, Max. You know better than you're probably contaminated, and Max. You probably this is your fault. You probably did it. It don't matter because I see what's happening. You have been huddling. You huddle with the researcher. You huddle with Molly Wood. You huddle with the NFL aficionados and what you do. You mingle with them, all right? And y'all conspire against me. But I'm up for it. I'm up for it. You will see Tony Romo again.
You are so full of it. We've never huddled.
Please.
You are so full of it. Way to switch the narrative like Phil Jackson.
Not only do I not huddle with anyone, but I would like a recount of that election the other day when you won 51-49. I believe I won the popular vote. That's beside the point.
Don't matter. I got electorals.
I want to just say that I'm glad that you, Damian Woody, and Jerry Jones, who obviously watches First Take, and everyone else in the world has finally come around to my way of thinking. What I said weeks and weeks and weeks ago is the issue for the Dallas Cowboys was last year and has been in recent years the lack of a real backup quarterback. And what Dak Prescott means for them is they finally found their backup quarterback. The only thing that's throwing people is it's not the guy they thought it would be. The backup is Romo. Not going to be next year because he's owed too much money. They saved the money on the salary cap when they cut him in June, which will surely happen. But until then, they got a guy sitting on the bench where if the starter gets hurt or collapses in terms of productivity, they can bring a guy in off the bench and succeed. And just because his identity is different than you thought it was, just because it's Tony Romo who's the backup, don't let that throw you. I've been saying this for weeks, and I'm glad that you and Jerry Jones and others are coming around to my way of thinking.
What? Go ahead, man. I'm going to give you the last word, maybe. Hurry up.
I'm just glad. It's really about time that you guys start listening to me because I come on this show, and I preach the football gospel on the show. But y'all been resisting what I've been trying to say, tell you.
Because I don't trust you.
Thank you for the good word.
I don't trust you.
But you know what? I heard from Max, I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, when you basically said what I said. So I'm like, okay, now I know we vibing. Yeah. Now I'm starting to get it from you. So now you're starting to understand.
I've been messing with you for years, and I'm gonna keep messing with you. I ain't gonna never stop. That's number one. Number two, here's the deal. In the end, while we're on the subject, you see, the problem is you a problem. Because you have changed your stripes. You know, you sliding over to the Cowboys. You're a former Patriot. Do you know this man said Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff 14 months from now? Do you realize that? 14 months from now. He said Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff. He's going to literally be garbage in 14 months. That's what he says. And you find yourself agreeing with him and siding about the Cowboys? You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself.
There's no agreeing when you making the initial points. You guys are following me.
Let's admit this. He has a wealth of football information. There's no two ways about that.
Yes, he gave us the good word.
Spot Kellerman, we appreciate your adage.
All right.
Thank you.
I really can't talk on their ratings, but in some way, shape, form, or fashion, we are entertainers of who we are. And our influence ranks second to none at this time of the year. When you come out in blue cleats, or when you come out in white cleats, gold cleats, whatever cleats, when you come out and do a certain dance, people are watching. The league has to understand it's entertaining for people to see that from a touchdown celebration. I mean, I found myself last night trying to see what Odell Beckham is going to do for his end zone celebration. And just the little nuances of the game of football, people can't get enough of it. I know I can't.
And bringing the dad back, how about it? So he's suggesting, obviously, the NFL should allow celebrations after being asked about the sinking TV ratings. You think he's got a point?
He's absolutely right on the money. These are the kind of things that gravitate a young generation towards you. you must remember, and not only that, the NFL can't be hypocritical. You can't build off of something and then forget it once you've arrived, just because you may not like it. Billy White Shoes Johnson, primetime Deion Sanders, Devin Hester, and all of those folks in between. They did a lot. Michael Irvin to a lesser degree. The list goes on and on. People did their celebrations. And you see kids, the younger generation, gravitating towards that. And not just the younger generation. By the way, not just the minority community as well. You saw white kids doing that. You saw white coaches doing that. I mean, when Dabo Swinney, did you see him dabbing? Yeah. When he was trying to dab? When you see kids at North Carolina trying to dab, even though that kid over North Carolina did a poor job of doing it, but it was funny. You just see a lot of these things.
You feel a part of it.
There is a difference between celebrating and taunting. And there is nothing wrong. I want to emphasize, there's nothing wrong with the NFL sitting there and saying, we don't want you taunting. But there's nothing wrong with them saying that. But having said that, there's also nothing wrong with players celebrating, because it magnetizes you towards the product. I'm telling you, I wanted to see, I mean, it was electrifying to watch Primetime return a punt or return an interception. Wasn't just because you wanted to see the play. You wanted to see him high-stepping into the end zone,
There's
man.
nothing like
There was nothing like it.
There's nothing like someone like Deion Sanders or Muhammad Ali or someone who just does something better and different than everyone else, feeling themselves afterward, of course, because it's like the expression of their ego, and it's not unfettered, and how many of us in life get to do that, right? So I agree with that, and basically it's not just along racial or cultural lines in terms of more puritanical versus less puritanical. It's also generational, as you said. The youth culture affecting the kind of norms of the older generation who, of course, don't like the fact that their view of things is getting displaced. It's going to happen in the NFL, too. Of course, Cam is right about that. But, and I know he's not standing up at the podium because he wants to. He has to, you know, talk. It's just when you're 3-6 and you're losing, a lot of people are going to hear that like, man, I'm not trying to hear that from Cam Newton right now. Last year when he was like, if you want me to stop celebrating, stop me from scoring. And people are like, yup, he's right.
But we got on him for not having fun, right, when he was losing. And now at least he's trying to have fun.
Wait a minute. I actually disagree with you strongly with the statement you just made. The fact that he's up there talking about the celebrations in the league and how it may have had a detrimental effect on ratings because of the league's willingness to micromanage, it's easy to say that when he's winning. The fact that he's saying that in the throes of losing, I got no problem with that, because to me, you know, he could be spoiled and not want to address anything like that because they're losing, but he was still willing to do it. Let's also point this out. The league is micromanaging, and I want to make sure I emphasize this. The league itself, we can't point along, minorities, white guys living up top and running the show. Wait a minute, you got Troy Vincent up in there and a host of African Americans that the NFL is employing that play a role in influencing the league in terms of how much of a heavy hand they bring down upon these issues. So it's collectively they've all drawn this conclusion. We haven't said enough about the Players Association, whether it's an issue like this, whether it's the Kaepernick issue or what have you. These are guys that represent the players. And I don't hear DeMaurice Smith practically on any damn thing. And it would be nice to hear his voice, for him to remind us that he does actually have the job of representing the players, to speak up about some of these issues. It really would be nice.
I want to address the Cam point about him being consistent. It's easy to do it when you're winning, harder to do it when you're losing. I'm not talking about whether he has the right, from my point of view, to do it, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm talking about the way it's going to be received by many people. It's going to be, because celebrations are a superficiality. They are the packaging that it's wrapped in. And while that's important, coming from a guy who's 3-6, when he makes the point about the kind of superficial stuff, it will resonate with many people like, look, deliver the goods. Don't worry about the superficialities of it all. I think that's the way it will be received by many.
That's fair. But the thing I took away, this kid's 27 years old, and he's saying, I can't wait to see what Odell Beckham's doing. So what are he's got a lot on his plate. What are other 20-somethings saying? They want to see it. They want to see the flavor.
It annoyed folks when T.O. celebrated. You trying to tell me you didn't gravitate to when he said get your popcorn ready?
I love my
So we want to see it. Thursday night football, the Saints come marching in. Bring it, Cam.
T.O. was dancing with the cheerleaders through the popcorn.
It was the best.
Lovely.
But the important thing is he balled out in the Super Bowl on one leg.
Of course.
That's why you love T.O. The other stuff is great, but that's not why you love him.
That's the gravy. Coming up with this subject, and I want to address the Mike Evans angle that you brought up. So in a protest of Donald Trump being elected president, Bucs wide receiver Mike Evans chose to sit for the national anthem on Sunday. On Tuesday, he had a change of heart, telling our Josina Anderson this. I want to start by apologizing to all the U.S. military members, their families, and the fans who I offended by my actions on Sunday. It was never my intention, as I have tremendous respect for the men and women who serve our country. I have very strong emotions regarding some of the many issues that exist in our society today. I chose to sit as an expression of my frustration towards this year's election. It was very personal for me, as it was for so many Americans. With that being said, I will not sit again during the national anthem because I want to focus my efforts on finding more effective ways to communicate my message and bring about change by supporting organizations and movements that fight for equal rights for minorities. Evans indicated on Instagram that, like Colin Kaepernick, he didn't vote. So, Stephen A., you are very hard on Colin Kaepernick for the same thing. Does Evans look better or worse right now?
Well, I think he looks better, but he doesn't look good. He doesn't look as bad as Colin Kaepernick because he didn't instigate a national dialogue and cause a national divide by the position that he took. He reacted to a result he didn't like, and whether we agree or disagree with it, in the end, it just wasn't consistent with what he's saying his position is, because he's saying we can't stand for this, we need to change, but you did nothing to facilitate that change. In the case of Colin Kaepernick, I believe it was the Sacramento Bee, correct me if I'm not sure I'm accurate about this, but I believe it was the Sacramento Bee who revealed that even before the protest, Colin Kaepernick hadn't even registered to vote. You didn't register to vote. You take a position where you kneel for the national anthem. You want to bring attention to it. You're talking about you won't change until there's change, but you did nothing to facilitate change when it really, really counts. There is nothing, absolutely, positively nothing. Our historians, particularly individuals within the African-American community, will be the first to tell you there is no instrument that we have available to us to provoke change more powerful than to vote. When you combine that with the fact that you've got guys like James Carney and Goodwin and Schwerber, individuals from the civil rights era in 1964 in Mississippi, they made the movie Mississippi Burning out of it. These three individuals were abducted and murdered. Took 44 days to find their bodies while they were trying to get African Americans to register to vote in the South. You know something
Goodman,
about your history. That's right. You know something about your history, and you turn around and you ignore all of that, and you slap historians in the face like that by not electing to vote and then going to announce to the world that you don't vote. That is shameful. It's unforgivable.
But Mike Evans
did not do that.
No, but Mike Evans looks worse than Kaepernick.
Okay, how?
Because Kaepernick's position to me seems naive. The idea that there's an equivalency between candidates and it wouldn't have an effect on black or brown lives that he claims matter is, to me, naive and misinformed, maybe is a better way to say it. But Mike Evans looks worse here because at least Kaepernick was consistent. Even as pressure came, he stuck to his guns. Now, he eventually went from sitting to kneeling after discussion, with a member of the armed services who wanted to appeal to his sense of patriotism, if not nationalism. Hey, people are going to misinterpret this as you're saying something against the military. Kaepernick said, okay, let's come to a compromise where my conscience is okay, but I'm not offending people as much. I don't see that as the same kind of backing down as Mike Evans here. Let's look at this. Mike Evans didn't vote. He is a public figure in a swing state. In fact, more than anything, that swung the election, Florida. Now, he votes in Texas, a red state, but he's a public figure in a swing state who doesn't vote and now makes it public that he didn't vote.
Afterward.
Yeah, afterward, that's true. Still, it's apathetic. He stands up for his principles at first, not in a general way. He's protesting Trump specifically.
Right.
And the message there is, I'm not going to allow this kind of behavior that we saw in the election, the kind of things that Trump said, be normalized in American life because a lot of people voted for him. I'm going to stand up to that. Well, good for you. That's standing up for you. Oh, wait, there's a little bit of pressure. There's a little bit of backlash. Okay, I'll sit back down again. That looks doubly bad because he doesn't vote, public figure in a swing state, votes in a red state, so, maybe it remains red because people like him who feel that way aren't voting, and then backs down as soon as there's a little pressure.
He backed down. It wasn't that he backed down, in my opinion, because of the pressure. He backed down because he realized how hypocritical his position looked because he hadn't voted and he was doing more harm than good to the very cause he was addressing. That's realizing the error of your ways and standing down. In the case of, and not only that, especially when your protest is of a specific individual and the rhetoric that he was spewing, that's entirely different. In the case of Colin Kaepernick, you essentially indicted a nation. You talked about the United States of America. You had a problem with what this country stands for, what it is about. You questioned whether or not it was living up to the values it spews, and then turned around and confessed that even though you felt that way and took that position, in the same place, you took no stance when it comes to activating and exercising your inalienable right to create the change you said you wanted. That is much worse than Michael Evans.
I want to address
that is much worse than Mike Evans.
There was a teaching moment here that Mike Evans could have participated in had he said, instead of backing down because he appeared hypocritical, I made a mistake. I didn't vote. I disenfranchised myself in a sense already.
He did that with his actions.
I will not make that mistake again. And now what I can do is at least stand up and protest.
And I'm telling you, he did that with his actions. What the hell has Colin Kaepernick done? He sat up there, took a position.
No, he looks like he caved now, Mike Evans.
You might say he looked like he caved, but the point is he stood down because he recognized he made a mistake. The bottom line is Colin Kaepernick saw absolutely nothing wrong with not voting. Absolutely nothing wrong without provoking the change that you asked other people to join you in trying to create. There's nothing more worse or more hypocritical than that. Colin Kaepernick should be ashamed of himself.
Mike Evans had
ashamed of himself
to make an optimal choice, and he made a way suboptimal choice.
Mike Evans just realized he stood down because he realized he made a mistake. Colin Kaepernick is the flaming hypocrite. Flaming hypocrite.
The bottom line to the bottom line is your vote matters, and I hope that our country realizes this in hindsight of the election and does that moving forward. I know I sound like a Monday morning quarterback, but that's the truth.